I will let D share what he wants to share, but D and I were, well, GPooL. D and I were introduced to each other when I was doing the beta of the of Theta, of TFUEL, that type of thing, the Guardian Node beta program, and that's where we initially met, and then we, became friends because we were talking to each other. And then I was going to set up my own Guardian node, and he was like, "Hey, well, I'm kind of setting up one too." I'm like, "Oh, I'd love to know more information." And then he shared what GPooL was all about, and I was like, "I'm done. I'm not setting mine up. I'm not going to worry about it. They have multiple servers around the world. I know how much time it takes to keep things going. I know that I wasn't up 100%, so why should I do it? Because I can join GPooL, I can join their Patreon group and pay, a little bit every month and not have to worry about it, especially when your internet connection goes down, you go on vacation, or you move out of state and it goes off for a week and you can't figure out why it's gone down." So that's why I really love GPooL, and I think D is going to have some good news to share about GPooL too. So D, if you want to just come on and tell a little bit about yourself, that would be great.
Sure. First, yeah, thank you guys so much for giving me this forum for this question and answer ability here. It's really great for the community to be able to have a recorded question and answer. I feel like not just on GPooL, but some of these heavier topics with Theta, and my understanding of them. Some of them are yet to. There you go with the clock with Theta 3.0's mainnet launching here. So yeah, with GPooL, we wanted to make sure that the community as a whole had access to staking and helping participate in the network. And that's really where the inspiration from GPooL came, knowing that there was going to be some people that don't have a computer, maybe even they're not complete computer savvy, but they're really just enthralled with potentially where Theta goes, and a large host of different situations that we've seen migrate over to us, and it's really great to get everyone's emails. And I know that we're going to start growing here, and it's I'll probably have some staff to answer these emails. So it's just really great that I still have the hands-on to hear each individual email as they come in. Well, that could get somewhat overwhelming at times.
Yep.
It's still great to hear, all of the, individual case by cases, because I hope I just never lose that when it's more just some numbers on the screen. And, I don't know that I will ever lose that. I'm still here in crypto, working, harder, I guess mentally than I ever have,
How long have you been in crypto, D? And as far as that goes, have you pretty much always been in the development side, so you're a developer?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess the first couple of months it was more exploratory, really grasping what it was. I got in around 2012, and to be honest with you, I still think it's funny when I look back and think about like the things I was Googling to try to figure out what the heck this was all really trying to say. It took a good at least week and a half for me to fully digest everything. But I'll never forget it, I guess the pain in an example of what YouTube for crypto looked like back then. It was, the demo video of mining and, Bitcoin and such. And I finally found a video of a gentleman explaining what mining was. It was still like not even a general basic knowledge of what mining was on the internet, and that's where it's like you start thinking how far it's come, where, some of these terms are now becoming base knowledge. And I think that's like a big thing that I try to explain to some of these individuals that come to me in email too is, it's really, this is the first time, and I don't know if I had said this in the first interview, but this is the first time that we're seeing like average people that want to know really technical answers about a new technology that we're all building. And it's really thrilling to see. I don't know that there's ever, even with the internet, I don't think a lot of the average people really grasped what it was going to even turn into. And now that we've got that as an example, there's a lot of people really curious about some of these technical heavy questions. And, you know, I hope that they don't get discouraged, you know, because I know how big this space is, and I know how fast it's growing. And I know sometimes it could probably feel like you're so far behind, you know, you're just, you know, it could probably be overwhelming for some people, but because it's overwhelming for me at this point, to keep up with everything, to be honest.
Yeah, I was gonna say, D, like I feel overwhelmed, and I do this all the time. And so, you know, with new people coming in, you will feel overwhelmed, and it's okay because, you know, everybody does until you kind of get a grasp of what's going on. I mean, that was back in the day when mining was done with the CPU, correct?
Yeah, not quite as plentiful, but yeah, it was starting to transition, but yeah. Yeah, that was some wild days. I'll be honest with you. You know, looking at your phone and seeing some big monumental thing that happened in crypto back then, and then looking up at people as they walked by going, holy smokes, these people, they didn't even know that just happened. Like, oh my God, this is huge. Like, you know, and then now we're getting into that where people are starting to peek into that window, you know, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, it is. And it's exciting to have people come into the space because it's interesting. The first interview we did, and I'll link it where this is posted. They have seen it on YouTube because we decided to post it there. And I'll get emails like, hey, I need a little bit of help. Do you know about this and about that? And these are people that really don't know that much, but you know that they really want to, and they're eager to learn about it. And it's really exciting to see that because it's, you know, the other side of it where people are like, I don't care about it. That's most of my neighbors around me. They think I'm crazy. Like, what is this, you know, crypto stuff? But they're coming around because they're seeing that it's being talked about in mainstream now as compared to just being, you know, a crazy person. So
yeah,
we all know that.
I laugh because you know, I've got a strong following around me, obviously, you know, friends, family, and so forth. And then every once in a while, you know, parent's friend or some have you, you know, that'll come around and you know, give me a bit of like, you know, concern or pause or you know what their concerns or pause, should I say, are. And I think it was 2000 maybe 18. You know, one of my mother's card ladies, you know, stopped over for something, and she was saying that she had heard the news that to stay away, and I can't remember what the dynamics were, but I'll be honest with you, I started laughing, and it was in a rude way, and I didn't even realize, you know what I'm saying, like I didn't even realize until I came to grips, because it was like, it was a very funny statement to me, and not for anything, and then I had to explain myself for laughing, and this is where it actually turns pretty funny, if you ask me, is because I said, well, I sort of have to explain to you, that's sort of like, to me, you saying the words, the Super Bowl won't happen this year. And now in retrospect, I see with all of everything that's gone on, I was like, holy smokes, the Super Bowl might not have happened this year, and crypto actually was taking off. Like I had to reflect back on that moment, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is my moment where crypto actually becomes more provable than the Super Bowl. Like, anyway, so yeah, I thought that was funny this year when I was looking at the Super Bowl going, oh my gosh, it almost didn't happen. But yeah, so but yeah, so I guess that's just to sort of piggyback on you guys' your opener. It is great to mentally prepare for longer term. I think we're all here understanding now that this is here. It's a force. It will be here for many, many millennia to come, in some way, shape, or form. Obviously, with quantum computing, that's going to change a little bit, but it'll be here. And I think that that's one of the more powerful things to think about is some of those 10, 15-year strategies and where we're going there. Now, mind you, sometimes when I talk in that fashion, I want to make sure that people understand that it is really just hypothesis. It's trying to predict, trying to predict TikTok back in 1990. Like that goes back to the base and building the bases. There's so many bases still to be built for a lot of this stuff to exist, and terminology that we don't even have yet in our dialogue. So with that being said, the vision and the direction and the momentum is still all going to be there. So it's easier to try and connect some of the dots backwards from there. So with that being said, though, when I look at Theta, and I mean, you can do this with most of the coins that will be there. I think about it, and to me, I really see it as, and the word might be, maybe over dramatic, but the freedom of speech coin, basically.
Yeah.
And I hate to try to just narrow it down into that group, because it's actually going to be even bigger than that. If you could imagine that something's bigger than the freedom of speech when it comes to, something protocol. But when you start talking about 3.0 coming and the staking of Guardian nodes, and we'll get to all of that, it's really easy to start connecting dots that this cancel culture and a lot of censoring and so on and so forth won't be really in our verbiage, hopefully soon enough.
Yeah, because it's very evident today. It's not being hidden, and that is one reason why we're moving off Patreon, because we've had others kind of similar in our space that if they don't like what you have to say, or if they don't like your views, or if they don't like that you're in crypto, they'll close you down. Because you probably have examples, 2 years ago, where if you were in crypto, you were looked at as a terrorist, or you were dealing drugs, because Bitcoin is all about the Silk Road, which I think the movie is coming out. I think I saw something posted about Silk Road, and it's anything but. And so so that's where we're headed. And let's talk a little bit about Theta Mainnet 3.0, if you can kind of share that, and then we'll go back to a little bit of your site.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I guess probably where we should start before we get into all of that real quick is that I don't know if a lot of people had seen the article that was just published last night about the rewards and them changing a little bit here in 6 days.
No, I have not. Was that on Medium? Yeah, if you want to send me that.
Oh, yeah, you'd like the link? Okay, sure. Here we go.
Yeah. Okay.
Sounds like we're going to get more money. This is great.
Ultimately, yes. This part of what I was going to explain is just sort of how the schedule is going to change a bit here. So, how it's been working is every 10 minutes, everybody that stakes gets a small sliver of a reward. And with all of the stakers, GPooL, Guardian nodes, and validators that they've been turning on, that reward block has gotten really heavy. Really heavy, because every 10 minutes there's thousands of people getting paid, and it's great. And they want to 10x that. So to do that, they need to make sure that that block that's heavy isn't a sort of a sticking point, to say. So what they've done is they've randomized who gets a reward every reward block. So every 10 minutes, well, it's every 100 blocks, so it could be about 12 minutes. That's the one thing maybe to is also explain that blocks aren't there as much as that we want them to be like a set clock, and maybe one day, who knows, they will be like you'd be able to boil an egg to them. It's a guesstimate of when it will happen. Theta's 5 to 7 seconds, averaging about 6. Sometimes it can get to 9 seconds, and really it just has to do when the validator nodes reach consensus on that next block. So I won't get it too deep in the weeds, but just know that block times can vary, and that's completely fine. So every 100 blocks, or about, let's say, every 12 minutes, there was everybody on the blockchain that was staking, getting rewards. Now it'll be, as they state, 200 to 300 stakers randomly, and it's weighted. Meaning when something's weighted, it means that it takes into consideration how much you have staked. So what they decided to do was weight this, meaning if you contribute more stake to the network, you won't have to weight quite as many random blocks to get a reward. Not saying that they feel like you're going to shut your computer off right away or what have you. It's just they have the math and the ability to sort the randomness, as crazy as sorting randomness means or sounds, but they have the ability to do such. So they did it in an organized fashion, which I think is really great. There could be arguments placed on both sides, but needless to say, as they state, you're looking like if you have over 100,000 Theta staked, you get rewards, about every 2 to 3 hours. So that does not mean that you're going to lose any rewards. What that means is you're going to get bigger rewards less frequently. So instead of small little rewards more frequently, you're going to get bigger rewards less frequently. So you might get paid maybe twice a day, but it's going to equal the same amount that you were getting paid. Now, if it is going to be once every day or once every other day, then it's probably best that we zoom out and look at your weekly, so if everyone wants to look at their weeklies, and start getting ready for that, it's about 6 days from now. I don't know that a lot of people are gonna notice the difference. They might notice a difference if they're really religious about staring at GPooL's number, because that's really where you probably see it the most. But just know that nothing happened if you don't get a rewards for X amount. It's going to be that's going to be interesting to explain in email form too. We're trying to get a response ready for that, because there's sort of a mystery in the air when you go to send it out of, before I could show everybody every 10 minutes, look, you're getting rewards. But if somebody says they're new and they're not getting rewards yet, we're figuring that out. We're figuring that out.
That's disconcerting. Now the question is, when you would get rewards before, and you may not know the answer, it doesn't really show up in your wallet. And there's a couple of things that are kind of clunky that I find with Theta. And every time, I have a platform, I'd like to voice my opinion on the changes that I'd like to see. And one of them is, that you don't see it in your wallet. And so if people aren't looking for that little change, they look in their wallet and like, I'm not getting anything. And you just, told me to stake this. Number one, I didn't tell you, I showed you a video. And so it doesn't fall in there. It would be great to see it in the wallet now if it's going to be less frequent. Do you know if that's going to happen?
That's a request that we put out quite some time ago. And not saying that they've said no or anything. It's just with apps and the approval process and so on and so forth, they want to make sure that all the wallets look the same and have the functionality. So the web wallet, while it is a little easier for them to add a toggle switch is basically all we need. I'm not saying I'd love it to default to showing rewards and then you being able to shut it off. But from what we've seen on the blockchain, when they added that toggle switch to show, you could filter out basically the reward transactions, because it did show by default on the web browser. Or I'm sorry, on the block explorer. So I think that what we're going to see is we're going to see the default view still stick with not showing rewards, and then it might toggle. You might be able to unfilter that or to stop the filter and see them. Now, the thing is with them being less, I'd like that maybe to be the default view. Before, you were getting close to 144 of them a day, and a transaction could get lost and cluttered really quite easily. But now you might be only getting a few a day. So, you know, I'd like to see maybe if that is the default view, but we'll see. You know, needless to say, it's going to be great to be able to see those in the wallet, because it is reassuring when you see a transaction viewable. And, you know, it is very cumbersome for new people to be able to go to the block explorer. And, you know, we're all hearing that, and we know that. And Theta knows that as well, for sure. I'll make sure that you guys know that. You know, they're very quite good in the back channels. So, yeah, that should be something that, you know, there's little, you know, still little things that I see too, you know, and that to me makes me feel good, because I know how early I am. If there's still these little things, right? You know, if you get on something and it's already polished up and everything like that, I mean, not saying that there can't be things like that, but I'm just saying this is a huge undertaking. And there's going to be a lot of things to build out, and it's just great to see that we're still here when we don't even have the sort feature in the wallet yet, you know. So
exactly. Well, and you know, one thing that I think it's interesting when I talk to people and they're looking at that and they're saying, you know, it comes in as Coinbase. The little tag next to it, and people are like, that's coming from Coinbase. I'm like, oh, okay, let's back up and look at history. Coinbase was like a core component, and then Coinbase, the company, took that term or that word and created a company around that. So it's like the Coinbase that's in that wallet was before Coinbase, the company. So just people know that it's not coming from Coinbase, the company. It's coming from just the core wallet technology.
One of those things where you can see where they could confuse that very easily, where someone could confuse that very easily. You know.
Yeah, and one other thing that I would love to see them change, because so many people have this question, because it's kind of, you know, across the board on some of the blockchains, is that because, you know, I'm a ledger guy, and you've thrown one or two people my way, like, hey, could you help this guy because he's kind of confused on ledger, is that when you tell someone to you know, to store it on your ledger, and they say, well, okay, I'm going to go to Ledger Live and I'm going to download the Theta app, and then I have to say, well, actually, this goes against everything that I say, but you can't have the Ledger app because, number one, there's not one, but you use the Ethereum app to store your coins using a ledger on the wallet. And their issue is, well, then it's an ERC20. And I'm like, well, actually, it's not, even though, you know, so that the confusion is pretty great. And I think I heard you drop another.
Yeah. Why don't we pull that up, and then that'll, because that's the roadmap, and on it actually is the solution that I think that you're driving towards. Scroll down just a little bit more. There you go, into Q2. There you go. So there we go.
Okay. Yep. Oh, good. Yeah.
So, you know, with that, and then as you can see up, there's going to be that one-click delegation that's in the first grouping. That is actually going to be, so the third one down in the, there you go, Q1. So that's going to be nice too, and very helpful. I appreciative to the team to do that. Basically, it's going to sort of help take all these guides and steps out of the equation for us. Which is going to be great. The community, I think, is going to really benefit from this. And you know, I hope that at some point there's a huge list of pools, to be honest. It really excites me, and a lot of the things that I lobby for, or that I think of how it could happen, and trying to forge that path forward, is with the mindset of how is this going to help benefit larger numbers of pools. Because I've been here a long time, and GPooL is amazing, and it's great to see everything. And I've seen how good it can be when there's a good scattering, a good helpful amount of services out there. For everyone,
and just not centralized. Decentralize it and have
absolutely
lots across.
Now, I guess that's a good thing to really quickly touch on, because we use the word centralized too, because with pooling, it can get a little it can look a little top heavy when you look at GPooL and how much we have stake to us too.
Yeah.
And I think that a real quick overview, maybe even for some people that have been in Theta for a while but don't even actually know what the validator and guardians, because it's really quick to explain. So the validators, they sit there and they make the blocks, and they produce the blocks, and they do it really, really fast because there's only a few of them and they can all talk together. Well, that's sort of a federated system. And what Theta said was, that's great for efficiency, and that's great for throughput, how many transactions you can get in a second, but it's semi-centralized for the validators. So they created this whole second layer of us guardians, and basically how it ended up actually coming together is that validator nodes submit the blocks, and they validate the blocks, and then the guardian nodes come in and we co-sign what they have done. So we're like a checks and balances to make sure that the validators are indeed producing valid blocks. I won't get into all the what the invalid blocks could look like, but needless to say, what a guardian gets is we get a vote, right? We vote yes or no. That was a good transaction, that wasn't a good transaction. And on the blockchain, you can see the votes and so on and so forth. And soon, I would expect, once exchanges and so on and so forth, that people taking payments, wallets start understanding. You might even be able to see how many how this has been co-signed, and the guardians interactions and so forth, because a lot of people right now, we can just stare and see the blocks are just coming at us. And soon there will be a lot more detailed information about what's in those blocks and so on. But anyhow, I just wanted to explain that each guardian gets a vote, no matter how much stake they have, and no matter how much weight they have. We get a vote, and our vote is just the same as another vote, basically. So we can have a large amount of people staking with us, and we still get our vote. So I just wanted to make sure that people understood that the second layer is what's so unique about Theta, and why it really does help it helps decentralize things so much so that pools aren't really centralizing anything.
Okay. Well, and this may be like we're talking really maybe over the majority of people's heads on this. So
for sure.
Yeah, we'll kind of come back now. What with 3.0 being released? Let's see, I lost my what do you think, like if we were in the Empire State Building and we could go from the top to the bottom in that time period, what do you think people need to know about Theta 3.0 mainnet release?
All right, I think there's a image that I had sent you.
Yep, I have those and I can pull them over.
Okay, yeah. Let's probably take a look at the one that's more of like a diagram versus the cluster first.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, cool. The first one. Okay.
There you go.
This one.
All right. Yes. So here's the premise, okay, of 3.0. So we had streaming. We have a model where streaming revenue gets paid and relayed, and I don't want to go too deep into all of that base knowledge that a lot of people will already have. What we ended up with was the edge network is sitting there and it's waiting to relay huge amounts of streams and peer-to-peer data, game patches, software updates, a whole slew of things, and it's ready to go. It's sitting there waiting. Now, the thing about that is there wasn't really that incentive yet to run them. While there's people like, you know, me and some enthusiasts about technology and such that will throw good, heavy resources that are somewhat costly at the edge network just because we, you know, that's our hobby and we use our hobby money to help the network. As, you know, silly as it sounds, some of us, that is our hobby and that's what we use our hobby budget for. So as great as that is, what ended up happening is that we're sitting there saying, okay, it's sort of a catch-22. Build it, you know, so that they can test it and they can come and help, you know, and start streaming on it. Bigger streaming platforms, you know, the YouTubes and so on. But at the same time, how are they able to test it if there's not a bunch of us sitting there just waiting and testing and so on and so forth, you know? So what Theta, you know, came up with, and I'm not saying that this was done purely for that. I'm just using it as an example. You know, I have no knowledge of who's testing and what they're waiting and how far along their testing is. They could be ready to launch tomorrow for all I know. I guess I'm using it more as an example. So
okay,
we had edge nodes that needed to get paid so that it incentivized resource, you know, bigger resources on the network and people to get paid for their bandwidth that it was using to even test. So what they ended up doing was doing a base salary in 3.0. So basically what you now have is you have all of the edge nodes that are going to be getting a base salary no matter what, with the caveat that you do have to stake TFUEL to get that base salary. When
can you
do,
stake any amount of TFUEL, or is it the maximum amount of TFUEL?
Right now, there's a minimum of 10,000. I hope that that gets lowered. I really have to see what the threat matrix or the attack vector would be of having the 10,000 minimum. I'm not, I guess, fully seeing why we have the minimum, but the maximum I can see. So the maximum, you know, will be 500,000 is what they're look to be testing and potentially launching with. So right now, the parameters that we're seeing in the code, and I'm assuming once we get this test net here, we'll be able to test a few more things. What we're seeing is we're seeing a minimum of 10,000, a maximum of 500,000, and then an inflation reward rate of 4%. So Theta gets 5% inflation rate, and TFUEL gets 4%. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But anyways, I guess I wanted to just make sure that people knew that that 4% is still a potential. And the minimum is still a potential, I hope. And the maximum, I think, is probably pretty good there. And the maximum, just what that means is we don't want just one big node sitting there. We want to make sure that that big node, even GPooL, has many servers and many different hardware running this robust network that is what Theta needs, you know, and thrives for. So what we have here is we have the edge nodes. Once you stake an edge node, it becomes an elite edge node. And you'll see there the elite edge node. So the inflation of 2 to 4 right next to it. The 2, they're, 2 to 4, like I said, it's still a little experimental, and 4 looks good. With that being said, now what you'll do is you'll stake your TFUEL. It upgrades to an elite edge node, and it gets a base salary. So basically, you'll be able to stake your Theta and stake your TFUEL. GPooL, obviously, we have our helping hand in all of that as well. But that's the basic premise. Now, if they do lower that 10,000, which would be great if they are able to, JE's got his head way more into the, the attack vectors and so on and so forth than I do right now. So if they're able to lower that, what that'll do is, because if it's still 10,000, that could get sort of to where, how Theta is 1,000 right now. And if you end up wanting to add to your stake, you have to unstake. So in Theta, you're getting paid in TFUEL. And yes, you can take that TFUEL, buy more Theta, and then stake more Theta. But with Theta, there is no inflation rate on Theta. So Theta, you don't have to, quote unquote, catch the inflation rate, So if you own 1% of Theta right today, you'll always own 1% of Theta going into the future. With TFUEL, if you own 1%, you potentially could end up holding a little less than that 1%. So it's imperative to be able to restake your TFUEL to keep up with the network. Now we'll get into that potentially a little bit later on, what Theta is going to do to mitigate inflation, meaning both coins potentially will hold the same supply that they have, and that comes from the burning mechanism. So there might not even be having to keep up with inflation on either coin, which is just amazing. A dual coin system with potential no realized inflation. That's really monumental. But anyhow, so not to get too deep into the weeds, but people soon enough will be able to stake their TFUEL, and as a result, in staking your TFUEL, there will be a computer that is now available to the network with a base salary to pay electrical and hardware costs. So with GPooL, what we're doing here is that we're going to let you guys come and use a computer over with us. So basically what's going to end up happening is you're going to come on and you're going to, oh great, yeah, there you go. So
there we go.
Yeah, so okay, so what you're staring at here is, it could probably look a little overwhelming, 4 different levels and so on and so forth. But really all this is saying is just how much that edge node that you're going to end up having us put up on the internet for you, how much that is going to help the network. And that's all it really is. The first one, the gold, I don't know that we ever really offer too many golds. We might end up having a situation where we just spun up a bunch of them and they're gold temporarily and then transfer over to platinum. So what gold means is, gold just means that you're just taking the base salary. You just have your TFUEL staked and you're just taking that base salary. What then the platinum transfers over to is that your node now turns on the capability to relay stream, just like Theta needs, right? To relay all this data. So the platinum is really where you're beneficial to the network. You're getting your base salary. Now, to keep in mind, every node on this chart gets the base salary, and you can actually, if you have a large amount of hardware out there, you could actually become a diamond yourself and run that. These all 5 of these correlate to the actual edge node themselves.
Okay, and how do you go from a gold to a platinum to an emerald to a sapphire to a diamond? How do you get into one of these silos?
Okay, so what you're going to do, soon enough, you're going to be on GPooL and you're going to say, okay, time for me to stake my TFUEL. You're going to click over on the section for staking TFUEL. And what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of edge nodes, tiles like these, all sitting there, ready for you to be able to stake to, okay? And they're going to all have how much they're able to take on, and you might even get into a couple of them because you might have more than 500,000. And you're there and you're looking at what's available. So basically, we're going to have computers all running behind these little tiles, and you're going to be able to join that computer and stake to that one. And basically, as it fills up, once it hits 500,000, it's no longer on the list and it just disappears into the background until somebody in that edge node withdraws or unstakes, and now there's opening on that edge node again. So basically, you'll go in and you're going to see them and you're going to say, okay, oh wow, there's a diamond available. Oh, there's a platinum available. Now, the platinums are going to be what we offer at the very beginning. We'll slowly walk into the gemmed edge nodes. So basically what you'll end up doing is you'll be staking in public edge nodes. Now, we are working on a potential model for private edge nodes where you don't want to have to worry about when you unstake having to then go find another one to stake back into. You'll have a nice little private section for you to manage yours and to have edge nodes sitting there to where if you say, well, I'm going to unstake this for a couple days and then just restake it, it won't be that big of an issue because it won't just vanish on you. So we're trying to make sure that we don't get we don't give too many options and clutter it up too much, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we do have those optimized, avenues for everyone. So let's go into all the emerald and sapphire and diamond, or did you have more questions on?
Yeah, real quick. So to pay for that, you're taking a 3% commission on the basic and the 4% on this. So I was going to ask, because right now when you go to GPooL, there's no way for you to recoup anything on the Guardian node except for people donating to your Patreon group, correct? So this is one way that you are going to help yourself keep this going instead of having someone to go out and spend, $1,000 or something on a computer to sit in their home. You can kind of rent some space through you guys and just pay something out of what you're getting paid. So you're not having to outlay any cash or outlay any coin. It's just going to be taken from what is being earned, correct?
Sure. So basically how the commission's going to look is that, let's say that, we're working with potentially the 4%. Let's say that you were going to get 100 TFUEL. So now what ends up happening is that, you get 96 TFUEL and we get 4 TFUEL. And that happens right when the rewards are distributed from the blockchain. So if we all remember that GPooL does not pay anything, that's all done on the blockchain between your wallet and the blockchain. All you're doing is at GPooL is fulfilling one of the other requirements. First requirement is that you have Theta or TFUEL. The other requirement is that you have a node, either a Guardian node or an edge node, depending on which one you're staking. And basically GPooL says, here, use ours. So GPooL is just fulfilling the second requirement to allow you to stake your Theta. The first one is on you. You have your Theta or your TFUEL in your wallet, and we sort of marry together onto the blockchain. And the blockchain says, okay, you have your Theta, and okay, I see you have a node. And that's all that's happening with GPooL. Now the website, while it's great, I want to make sure that everyone knows that there could be a website that pops up and shows every single thing that our GPooL site shows. They could look identical to us, and we have not shared any information with anybody because it's all public information that we're showing. We're just showing it in a more digestible form on GPooL. So,
Yeah.
you know, if GPooL, if you go to click on GPooL and we're doing an update on the website, just know that that website holds no funds, does not pay you. It's just a nice way to look at things that are actually already happening. And it's a historical look back. It's not of events to come, it's of events that have already happened, is what you're looking at GPooL. It really just is just an easier way to digest everything. So yes. So with the Guardian, or with the edge nodes, what we're going to have here is, as you see, the commissions do go up, and that's because as the edge node gets higher into the emerald, sapphire, and diamond, it requires more hardware on our end. And to be honest with you, so what we're really excited about with being able to get the commission is being able to build a hugely robust network for Theta. So basically what we're doing is we're taking our commission and some of our investments, and we're going to start building out GPU heavy edge nodes. So I guess to do a little quick little thing on that, what you see if you go over to the go to that roadmap again. Oh yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, let's go to the roadmap real quick.
Let's see. This one or the next?
Oh,
the roadmap.
Yeah, I think it's in the
Nope,
middle over there.
I have too many.
There
we
it
go.
is. Okay, so if we take a look at Q3 and we go down to that second item there, and we see machine learning, AI, and other compute heavy jobs. Okay, now what I think a lot of people maybe might not understand. I mean, I guess the first task is up there under Q2. Maybe let's look at that. The last one under Q2. Let's maybe, okay. So what that is that's transcoding, okay, and encoding video. So basically, what your GPU will be used for, or your CPU will be used for, and I say yours because you know you'll have one on GPooL that you'll be using as well, as you could use one at your house. So what that'll be doing is that'll be encoding the video for the network. So basically what it's going to end up doing is it's going to be taking some of that workload of things that need to be done for that video and using your computer to do them. So with that, you'll earn extra rewards for allowing them to use your computing power. Once again, it is in the sense of the GPooL your as well. So then we transition over down into Q3, and we see that there's machine learning, AI, and other compute heavy jobs. So potentially, what we're talking about here is a Theta network of edge nodes that potentially a research lab developing a vaccine could come and use all of the computing power of everyone on the network of Theta. And for that, they'll pay the premium for that kind of a job to the network in the form of TFUEL. So what we have, you know, when we go back and take a peek at the different levels of, there we go. Okay, so what we have here is what the gold I explained, that's not relaying any stream. The platinum relays stream and it helps pass data around. Once we get into the gems, the compute nodes, now you're talking about giving GPU very complex, hard-working hardware up to the world so that they can solve some really complex equations and heavy learning functions. So as we see, under the platinum, it says that you get your share of the relays. So as streams get relayed through that edge node, you get your base salary, and then you also get your relay rewards. So the base salary, which we'll go over here in a little bit when we go through all of the rewards models, that's, keep in mind, that's only just your base salary. You'll still end up getting rewards over and above the base salary when you're in the platinum. And then once you transition into the emerald, sapphire, and diamond, those are now when you get into level 1, 2, and 3. And you're offering now number crunching GPU hardware. And the higher we
Kind of
go
like
in
the
the,
NVIDIA.
yes, that would right there, that would be the ideal diamond guardian or edge nodes. To have 1,000 of these at GPooL would be what I would look at as sort of our target right now. And I know that that might sound a bit obscure for some, because you're talking about, you know, well, they haven't even put a price out there from what I saw on these. You're talking about tens of thousands of dollars for one of these. So that's where we are helping with our commission. The commission that we're taking on all of this is going to help us build. So basically, look at it as a partial donation to help build out the Theta edge network too, and potentially attract some of the bigger research universities over to Theta to be able to utilize some of this really nice high-end software hardware that we'll have for them. So
wow, that's and real quick, just because I know we
sure.
were talking earlier, and you're first thinking of building what a colo facility one, but really what you need to do also long term that I think you guys have on the board is that it's not just one location, but it's global, so that
Sure.
you get more decentralized as you grow.
So let's say, so if we're looking at the whole model, what we'll do is we'll slowly, our goal is to make sure that when you come on to GPooL here, however long this might take, months, maybe even closer to a year, probably a year, every single edge node that we're offering on GPooL are diamond. That's our hope, is that we slowly transition up to where we can offer nothing but diamond class for everyone. And that will mean that we have a very nice GPU sitting there for a isolated singular edge node computer on every single edge node we have. Instead of shared hardware, it's all dedicated singular to that edge node. And it's going to be exciting to see what Theta can really build out with that at their disposal. And I don't mean just GPooL, but all the other players at that point, I'm sure that will be in offering their hardware as well. So basically, that's our vision for the build out on a singular level. We then, as we go along, obviously, we build up redundancies, meaning if your edge node was to go down, we have another one sitting there ready to go up. So basically what we're looking at is, with emeralds and getting out there and starting with the backups and so on and so forth, potentially what we'll have is we'll have one backup for potentially 10 edge nodes. Then we're going to transition into a backup for every other edge node. And then we're going to have a backup for every edge node we have on the network. And potentially, I mean, I don't know, but it would be nice to have maybe a second backup or a third, Anyways, that starts getting into the heavy, too heavy for what it's really doing. But there's nothing that says that, while it's not occupied, it can't be doing other. Anyways, that gets a little too far. But basically, our goal is to make sure that we have backups and that we can proliferate globally too. Well, we're going to be, so it's really going to be a sort of a step build out, and as we step, we're building better for the edge network. It's basically going to be this: we're building better hardware and backups and more locations, and then we build more hardware, more backups, more locations. And we hope that as we step up to being able to provide diamonds to everyone, it's that we have diamonds around the world, and that's with backups, so that's where we're headed, and that's what we're budgeting, and that's what we're taking a lot of time making sure that we develop this, so that is what we're working towards every day that we're building this.
Let's take it back up and talk to the people that are here on what they're going to see on GPooL. Some of the advantages. And I guess, some of them we have covered, that you're not going to need to run your own computer at home and stake your TFUEL, and just some of the advantages and how much you see the increase in value of the tokens themselves.
Sure, yeah. Let's go back to that image you had loaded there.
Okay, which one?
You just had it there on the screen.
Okay, yep, that one.
There you go, perfect. All right. So what we're looking at here is, for everyone that doesn't know, this calculator is available to anyone. You don't even have to have an account on GPooL. So when you go to the GPooL website, it's sitting right there as calculator. Now, what we're looking at here is, this is what you can enter in and customize and see what your APR is. So what I've put here is that, let's say somebody, because you guys have had listeners and investors for quite some time. So what I did was, on the other one here.
Okay, let me go back to that one.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay, there we go.
Yeah. So what I did here is I wanted to make sure that, and now not everybody here had paid 10 cents per Theta, but I just wanted to make sure that we all look at where we're actually starting from, if we wanted to look at what APRs are that we're getting right now. And you can adjust that depending on what your average was that you had bought your bulk of your Theta at. Some people might be $1, and so on and so forth. So at 10 cents, if you paid 10 cents on average for your Theta, you're earning about 46% APR today. Now, it's easy sometimes to lose track of that, because you look at today's price and APRs and so on and so forth. And what we're going to then discuss here is the rewards on 3.0, what everybody's going to end up getting, and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to make sure that we all kept in perspective that what we're about ready to talk about is all of sort of newcomers numbers. So if we wanted to go over to that site that I threw together here, your very first tab.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we scroll down, what we're going to end up seeing is, I don't want to get too heavy because people can go to the website. It's tfuel.farm. They can all read all of this. Basically, the principles that are going to be at play here is that you're going to be earning, your APR depends on two different things. It depends on the price of TFUEL, and it also depends on how many TFUEL are staked. So if we scroll down and we take a look, there's going to be a golden ratio, and we're not going to get heavy into all the numbers. It's all there for everyone that wants to explore. So we'll just scroll down a little bit more. So here's the chart, that we look at. So all of that information above explains how we derive sort of at this point here. And what we're looking at here is, starting from the upper left here, is that Theta, this is how much everybody gets paid a day, meaning the whole network gets paid that many TFUEL a day, okay? TFUEL, this is how much the network is going to get paid TFUEL per day. Now, that's the 4%. That's using what's in the code right now. That can change a little bit. We're waiting to see. If we go and we look over, that's the amount of TFUEL and Theta that would be potentially staked. What this means is this: the more people that stake, sort of the less that you get out of that daily amount. So the daily amount is dispersed over to everyone, and it's proportionally given to you depending on how much you have staked. So then we come down over here and we look at price, and we see, okay, $4 Theta, and then you look at TFUEL and you say, wow, that's 64 cents. That's not the price of of TFUEL today. And what we see here is this: we have this chart that has balanced the supply staked, and then we look at the APRs over at the very far right corner, and we see that those APRs are balanced. Now, for these APRs to balance, that is what TFUEL would have to cost to balance out the formula. Okay, if it is not, it does not balance the formula. Now, balancing the formula is quite elegant. Theta has built a masterpiece of a model, because basically how we balance is more TFUEL is bought and staked, and that's how we end up balancing. So when more TFUEL is bought, the price goes up. Excuse me. The development team is waking up here. Okay, so as more TFUEL is bought and the price goes up and more is staked, it all comes down. So if we want to scroll down just a little bit, there we go. Keep on. Here we go. So this shows what out of balance looks like. So here we go. So from that top chart, it was balanced. But now if we take a look here and we see today's price potentially, I know this was today a few in crypto, right? It was like a year ago, but this was really just yesterday. So if we take a look and we see, okay, Theta at $4, TFUEL at 14 cents, and we go and we look at the APR and we say, oh, holy smokes, okay, well, your APR is a little better in TFUEL. But now if we take a look, that right there is if the supply is balanced, meaning you have the equal amount of people staking Theta and TFUEL. So if we scroll down here and we look at this next one, this one is if the prices are balanced like they're supposed to, but not as many people are staking TFUEL up there. So instead of the 53 and 53%, it's a 23%. And we look at the APR and we're like, oh, okay, well, the price balancing helped bring up Theta's APR, but wow, a lower supply staked also brings up TFUEL's APR. So let's scroll down a little bit more, and this is what we'll look at here. Okay, so this is the model that you could probably say maybe we launch with. Let's hypothetically say this, and why I'm saying this is because potentially we launch here April, 40 some days, and Theta's at $4 and TFUEL's at 14 cents. And we go and we look at the supply up there in the upper right corner, and you have 53% of the Theta stake like we do now. I think that number's up a little bit more, and then we go and we look at TFUEL. Now this is where we start getting into potentials. And potentially we start off with maybe even lower than 23% staked. And if we do that, we look at the APRs and we go, oh, okay. So potentially when we launch, TFUEL is looking like the APR is actually quite attractive. So what ends up happening then is the network or the markets are going to find balance. You can't have this out of balance like this. So what will end up happening is people will buy TFUEL and start staking it. So this is once again where I want people to remember, we're looking at newcomers. If you remember, you're not getting an APR of 1.6 unless you bought your TFUEL or your Theta today. Okay, your APR is actually quite higher, and it's some people are probably getting even higher than 46% right now because of at what price they paid for their Theta. just keep in mind when we're looking at this, we're looking at newcomers. And that was one of the things that Theta wanted to make sure that they were good for newcomers as well. A lot of us people who've been here, we've made a lot of money and we're making lots of money every day. We wanted to make sure that it helped encourage new investments as well. So potentially your new investment that you actually took out another position today in is as profitable as your position has been from over the years as well. So what we have here is this. If we remember, Theta's reward APR is based on TFUEL's price. The higher TFUEL's price goes, the higher the APR goes for Theta. And if we know that TFUEL stakes APR is based on how many TFUEL is staked. The more TFUEL staked, the lower the APR goes. So if you have the whole market buying TFUEL today and staking it when it's available to stake, you have a price increase and a supply increase in staking, which makes Theta's APR go up and TFUEL's APR go down. And if we scroll back up to that golden ratio, just a little bit more up, just so we can look at that chart. There you go, right there. So that's where you have the price going in one direction for Theta stakers and the total supply going in the other direction. And that bar right there is the golden ratio where they even out. And then let's scroll back down to that first chart. And there you go, right there. And this is what it would look like level, okay? So potentially 53% now is staked because we started out maybe at 23%. The price of TFUEL is now higher because TFUEL has been bought and staked, and now the APRs are balanced out. So that's what this site goes over a little bit more in depth in the math, and I don't want to get too deep into all of this, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone understands that there should be an equilibrium that's found between Theta and TFUEL's price relation. And if the supply is equal, so if both networks have the same amount staked, the price gap that always balances the equation is 6.25 to 1. So that means that for every 1 Theta, you can get 6.25 TFUEL on the market. And that's the price gap. It's more about the gap than it is about the actual prices. So
yeah. Well, so TFUEL right now has a lot of catching up to do with the price of Theta being at.
Yeah, to balance it out for sure. I mean, how many X are we talking? I mean, well more than 10X. Yeah, I mean, and that's where you get the arbitrage opportunity. The markets will balance, and there might even be people that set trading bots to the golden ratio, so to say, where when the market falls out of balance, it ends up buying that asset up and balancing it back out, and so forth, So I think that it's going to be a really unique opportunity to see that potentially a trading bot can trade on a price gap or a price ratio versus any other metric. It's going to be interesting to see,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would love to start taking questions. I know you and I could go on for quite some time. If there's anything more, well, I kind of like, I like this bonus right down here. I didn't scroll down
See,
this morning.
so that one is, if you scroll up just one more, so that one, it won't scroll over. Yeah, there you go. So this one I just put out there, like, what would it look like if every coin out there was staked, like 100%? And the worst case scenario would be that everyone gets still a 4% APR. So then, scrolling back down, I put one together showing what the price of an asset would be potentially that has 100% of it off of the exchange. Like if it's all staked and locked up. But once again, as we see, Theta to $1,000 and the price gap being equal to where it needs to be at the 6.25, that means TFUEL's $160. Now, I'm just saying that it's interesting to note that once equilibrium is found and the price gap is tightened, that everything balanced, it's going to have a pretty extreme partnership and relationship they'll both have. You know, they service each other, which is amazing, to be honest.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Okay, we're in an hour and 20 minutes. I guess, do we want to take some, would you be willing to take some questions if people had it on?
Sure.
Jay, if you want to help me on this too, that'd be great. Let's see. Okay, let me start. DOS. Taking.
Okay, here's the
let's
first
see.
question. I'll just read the first one. Do you know why Theta and Theta Fuel aren't available on U.S. exchanges yet? Is that Theta's choice or U.S. market choice?
That one's going to be for you, D.
Yeah, I know that they're working. They have some non-disclosure forms that they have signed with some exchanges. They answered that in a public AMA, and they're working on getting some U.S. exchanges. They can't tell us how far along they are, and I know that from what it sounds like, they've been working for quite some time. So all hopes that it's going to happen soon.
And then here's another question for you, D. You mentioned the 500,000 coin count, and you mentioned the lower end of that, and you said you were hoping that they would lower the lower end of that. I'm wondering, will they raise the upper end of that? Like for me, I mean, I've got millions of TFUEL. Is there going to be a node I can put that in, or am I going to have to put that in, 20 different nodes to be able to stake it all?
Right. So what you would do, as far as raising it, I'm not sure that they will. Their goal is to get more nodes on the network. So what you would end up doing is you'd come to GPooL and you'd have a couple of tiles lined up, and each one has its max fill. And what you're doing at that point is keep in mind that you have now a couple more opportunities to get even more rewards. So if you put it all into one, you would end up earning just the base salary on that, which is great. But then it would only be able to relay one stream at a time and so on and so forth. Because you have a couple of them lined up, one might be relaying and then the other one goes to relay. And anyways, this should translate into more rewards in the end. So it certainly, while it's a job for us to handle on the back side of things, for everybody that's going to be involved, it basically is going to end up where you potentially get more rewards because you're in a couple more edge nodes. So it shouldn't be too much of a problem. And we're going to design it so that it's pretty easy to work with.
Yeah, because you guys are designing a custom solution.
Yes.
Obviously.
Yeah, so I'm going to skip over a couple of these questions that are just, guys, these are common sense. You're asking, should you use GPooL over using your satellite-based data? Come on, unless you're using Starlink, you don't have enough computing power to run anything on a satellite. So I'm just going to kind of go over some of those and just bypass that. I just tested unstaking my Theta in GPooL, and I'm glad I did. When I entered the GPooL Guardian node holder in my Theta wallet, using the scan QR code, my Theta wallet says address not valid. I wrote to the GPooL support desk asking what could be the issue, but in the meantime, I was wondering if someone here has perhaps already experienced and resolved this problem. I've unstaked mine, and I had no problem unstaking mine. But
yeah, let me touch on
question to D.
Yeah. So probably probably hasn't gotten a response because I'm in here right now. But yeah, I've seen a lot of emails coming. So yeah, I'm going to get to that email. But to answer it right now, because that might help and benefit quite a few people, is that QR that you scan and that long address that you scan to stake is not the same that you use to unstake. I know that might sound confusing, but that long summary and that QR that you use to delegate is different than the holder address. What you use to stake is called the holder summary. The holder address that you need to unstake is actually right there on your wallet. on the unstaking page. It says holder address right in it. So what you need to do is when you're on GPooL, we have the guides down at the footer. You just click on the guides, and we have a guide to show you exactly how to undelegate at any time. So basically, it in that guide, it explains that you need to have the holder address. And keep in mind that you're not withdrawing it in a sense that you're withdrawing it from an exchange. You're withdrawing it being staked. So it's still in your wallet, even though it's not in your available balance because it's not available, it's actually staked. So even though it's now, what ends up happening is you unstake it, and when you unstake it, it's just becoming available in your wallet again. So it's not moving anywhere. So when you're putting in a withdraw address, don't get concerned that this isn't your wallet address, because that's actually not what it's asking for. What it's saying is, of the guardians that you're staked to, which guardian do you want to unstake from? That's all it's asking. That address is just to identify out of a potential list of guardians that you're delegated to. So imagine that there's a couple pools out there and you're staked to GPooL and you're staked to another pool, and you go to unstake. It just wants to say, hey, which of these addresses that you're staked to are you unstaking from? So that's all it really
and
means.
the video that I put together kind of walks you through that, because I've had a couple people contact me and like, I'm putting this in and it doesn't work. It's like, well, you know, just watch the step by step and do it, because people do get
keep in mind, this should go to the wayside as well with the one-click delegation that Theta has given us, which you'll be able, with the one-click delegation, you'll be able to go into your wallet, select GPooL from potentially a drop-down menu, click on it, delegate to it, and you delegate. And then when you want to undelegate, there will be a button that you undelegate to from, and the guides won't need to be even necessary. You'll just get our name from a list, you'll click, and then in you'll delegate, and out you'll unstake as well. So the process is going to get a lot less cumbersome.
That's good. Good morning, Jay. Will you provide an update target price for TFUEL? Would be great to monetize this conversation. Let me monetize the conversation with you, but before I do, let me also say to folks asking for an update on my target price for TFUEL, I just did a video Tuesday about Theta. I updated my target price for Theta, and I said in the video 3 times, I have no new update for TFUEL. So from Tuesday to today, there is no update. Now let's monetize this conversation. A person would have to be an absolute moron to not take free money. Excuse me for putting it so bluntly. You'd have to be an absolute moron to not set yourself up to win bigger than you're already winning. So the monetization talk goes like this. I'll use wax as an example rather than TFUEL. Theta staking has not been around as long as wax staking, or if it was, we didn't have the ease to do it like we do with GPooL. As soon as George dug into GPooL, I was like, great, let's set it up, let's do it, this is fabulous. But you know, I earned hundreds of thousands of wax tokens over the last couple of years, just leaving them sitting there, going in and claiming them once or twice a month, restaking them, hundreds of thousands. That's free money. If wax, like what's happened today, has gone up 58% today because the NFT market is now starting to take off, which, by the way, folks, should be a signal that the market is reaching some topping. If you go back to 2017, when everybody started putting hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars into crypto beanie babies, let's just call it that, within 15 days, the market collapsed. I don't think that Bitcoin or the market is at a point of collapsing, but I do think from 4,000 to 60,000, with no bigger than a 31, 32% correction, I do think we're getting set up for a little bit better correction and then upward and onward from there. So I'm not, don't take that the wrong way. But to monetize the talk, if wax goes to $2, and I have hundreds of thousands of them for free because I've had them staked, guess what? There's your monetization. And it's the same thing here. You don't need it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what Dee is sharing with us is we're making your life easy. So all you have to do is point, click, drag, and drop and earn your percentage. GPooL's going to keep a little bit for all that they're doing, which I think is minimal, but I think it's great they're getting paid. And then from that perspective is when you do go to sell your TFUEL, when you do go to sell your Theta, how much did you get free? And if you got it free for a year, or you got it free for 18 months because you were staked and you were earning your percentage back, and that's what's fantastic about the models that Dee and George are going through is you can see there the kind of the percentages that you're getting back based on when you got involved. And then that's when your conversation of monetization comes around. Do you sell your Theta at $10? And do you sell your Theta fuel at $2? And I mean, look, I've bought a lot of Theta fuel, but if I take the Theta fuel I was given for free, which was millions of Theta fuel, and I average it together with the ones I've purchased, my average price is way, way, way down at the bottom. I mean, it's just nothing. Like it's almost 100% profit, right? So everybody's conversation of monetization will be different. How long did you have it staked for? How much in that time frame did you get? And now at what price are you selling it at? There's going to be people that watch Theta fuel go to an enormous price, and then they're going to watch it go all the way back down. And so when you want to talk about the balancing of markets, the balancing of any stake pool comes in a bear market. You'll really get some balance then when you come into the bear market. And what I mean by that is it levels the playing field because so many people will not take a profit. Because most people don't know how to get into a good trade. They have no clue how to get out of a good trade. And so that kind of is the answer to that question. Let's see if we have some more for D here. Thank you, Jay, for reining in the techies. I wasn't understanding that. Me either. I'm glad these guys are smart and they do what they do because I don't have to. I get to do what I do good. So thank you, D, for that. Thank you for being a brainiac, George and D both. I have had a Guardian node running on my computer, but I couldn't figure out how to hook it up with a Theta wallet. Am I just running it and not losing the fuel? Am I just running it and not losing the fuel? That's the question, I guess.
I guess I'd have to take a little bit, stronger look at their, what their address and what it looks like on the blockchain to completely answer. But from the assumption, it sounds like they have the edge node or the Guardian node running and they haven't staked to it. There's a guide for that, and it's pretty close to our guide for delegation as well. So they'll just need to go to the GitHub guides through Theta. Theta's got information out there. And just, as a matter of fact, I think even on the download page for the Medium article for the Edge or the Guardian node, there is a link to their guide. However you find the guide, there will be a guide to show you how to quote unquote link them together. Basically, you're going to take that Guardian node that's just sitting there and you're going to stake to it. And there's a guide for that.
Yeah, because all you're really needing is the summary and putting it in.
Correct.
And so you're kind of doing the same thing. And honestly, like I gave up. I bought a computer specifically for running a Guardian node, and I was like, nope, I cannot do it as well because I looked at the stats. I don't have the link, but it shows your uptime and downtime, and you don't get paid for your downtime. And so I was looking at it and saying, I'm paying for power, I'm paying for maintenance, I'm paying for just making sure that it stays up. I don't want to do that because I'd rather go to someone like GPooL and have them handle everything, and I don't have to worry about it all. And my return is better, than running it on my own and looking at the stats and my downtime and what I'm running here at home, which is great, gig up, gig down, but I still had enough downtime to pay for you guys to do it, and it was much, much cheaper.
Yeah.
I was just going to go to the next question here. Does TFUEL reach a price where it cripples the Theta network? because it's too expensive to interact with, i.e. ETH gas prices are deterring some users. Do you have an opinion on that, Dee?
Yeah, so, well, not only just from a gas perspective, and when we see, how low the gas price is, I would love for that decimal place. I believe it's the sixth decimal place. I'd love for that to actually be a meaningful number and TFUEL value. But with that being said, there's also the end that a $10 TFUEL, that might look, sort of silly. You may be earning one of those a month and people don't want to deal with decimals and so on and so forth. So let's say that we're at a $10, $20, TFUEL. What I would foresee happening, and I don't have this complete firsthand knowledge, but I would see them doing what's called a redenomination. They just shift the decimal, and instead of you saying that you have, one TFUEL worth $100, you have 100 TFUEL worth $1. So not to get into the math and all that stuff, but what they would do is they just shift the decimal so that it was more easily digested and able to be used on the network a little bit more fluidly for the average person without a bunch of messy decimals involved. It can get really confusing to some for these decimals.
Yeah. This person says, thank you for the live stream. Do you know of any tokens that will come in the future that may compete with Theta? I think there's one out now that's trying to compete with Theta. Is there not?
I have seen a couple different coins, and I guess you could look at it from an end that Theta is doing so many things that it could actually touch a couple different genres of competition. You even have the smart contracts that we have seen them launch, where it potentially is competing for market share of the smart contracts as well. So yeah, I think that you could really make an argument for competition on many levels. I think it's more of, for me, it's more of a one-stop shop. Theta has quite a bit of the elements brought into it, and potentially the ability to keep a lot of people in its ecosystem, which is great. And I think that that's maybe a little bit, underlooked, where some of these other networks are doing some of the things that Theta are doing, but when you look at the grand scheme of everything, you're saying, wow, Theta actually has built two networks and paying for both networks out of the block reward and then burning it so that there's no inflation. And it's doing that with smart contracts, with streaming, Airbnb for your Wi-Fi, basically. And it's amazing when you look at that, keeping it all into a same ecosystem.
Robin here says, is it possible to stake and then sell at any time? Are you suggesting we stake both Theta and TFUEL and invest the same amount into both? I think the question about investing the same amount into both is not something that Dee can advise you on, or even I can advise you on. That's your own, that's on you guys, what you decide to do there. I do think that the Theta team was very, they were making a huge suggestion when they airdropped people, 5 times per one Theta token. So that's a pretty good suggestion, I think. But the first two questions I think are good for Dee. Is it possible to sell at any time? Are you suggesting that they stake both Theta and TFUEL?
Yeah, so selling at any time. Basically what happens is to go back to the example, your coins aren't going anywhere. They're just getting time locked in your wallet. So when you stake, it gets locked and out of your available balance and into the staking balance. And when you go to unlock that, Theta has implemented a cooldown mechanism to make sure that the network isn't so volatile. And you sit through about 60 hours. And I say about is because it's actually in block number, not a clock time. So once you get through the period, you're able to sell and move and do everything that you wanted to do. So it's about 60 hours. And then as far as, should you stake both of them? Well, if you own both of them, yeah, I'd stake both of them. I mean, you're getting more rewards by having both of them staked, for sure,
Okay, let's see here. Someone's saying they're on your website. They're very confused. George has got a video about this, guys. Do you not have a video on YouTube, right, about how to stake on GPooL?
Yeah, it's that's why I get a lot of emails saying, "Hey, I have a question about XYZ," and it's so it's there. What I'll do is I'll make sure that we get this and some of the other links, some of the Medium articles, so you can kind of go through and summarize that for yourself and see what information you want to learn about Theta, TFUEL, GPooL, etc.
And someone's asking, did he say 60 hours or 16? It's 60 hours, about 60 hours. He did say about 60 hours. So it does take you a little bit of time to unstake. I unstaked my ADEX, my ADEX, and that's 30 days of wait time before it comes back into your wallet. So each one of these coins are a little differently. Theta is 60 hours. That is our last question of the day about the TFUEL and Theta. So did you guys have any closing thoughts there before we move on? I've got somebody else I need to bring on here that's been waiting.
No, I want to really thank Dee for coming on, and I know it's been too long since we've had you come on, and we got too down in the weeds. And next time we'll keep it up a little bit. But I know maybe we can. Let me see, when is it going to happen? Maybe in 49, 50 days, we can have you come back and talk a little bit about 3.0.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I look forward to it. I appreciate you guys having this platform for me to discuss all this.
Oh,
Indeed, I'd
absolutely.
like to say too, I think on behalf of everybody here, again, you're very smart at what you do. I have none of those skills. And without your platform, I'd be over here going, what do I do? How do I make money with my Theta? And I'm not an advocate of putting my money on some platform. For example, let's just call it a BlockFi. Like, I'm not an advocate of that. So you've given all of us the ability through your GPooL, and now it looks like what you're going to be doing with ThetaFuel, being able to run the different nodes, where we can eliminate that third-party counter risk, and all we really have to trust is the code that you guys put together and that everything that you've built. And I just can't thank you enough for that, because for a guy like myself who believes in the project, I'm the guy who says, hey, I'm going to invest in Elon Musk, not Tesla. And I'm the guy that's saying, I'm going to invest in the team of people that built YouTube. And that's why I'm investing in Theta, right? I'm investing in that team. But then you come along with all your smarts and all your background and build something I get to basically win bigger from. And I just want to thank you for that on behalf of the whole team.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, you're welcome. It's actually, it's a pleasure to do it. It's exciting to be able to, be involved at this level and like I was saying, help grow with hardware and a robust network.